If you want your children working with bone saws and a pile of animal guts, then Wisconsin might be the state for you. Recently, more than 100 children were found to be working in a Wisconsin meat packing plant in clear violation of every kind of state labor law. No surprise, we did a story on this last week. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is giddy. The associated industry is giddy because we're bringing all these children across the border, right? Yeah. What are we going to do with them? We're going to pay them below average wages because they're going to be working part-time. We're going to put them in situations where they can be maimed or killed, lose an arm, lose an eye, and we ship them back home. U.S. Chamber of Commerce, buddy, they love that because they don't have to spend the money going across the border. They bring them in from Nicaragua and Honduras, wherever, right?
Yeah, and this is truly disturbing because when we had talked about this, we were talking about legislation that had been proposed to allow this.
Right.
And then we turn around, find out a week later, this is already in practice, illegally in practice, but that shouldn't surprise anybody. And this company, this Packers Sanitation Services, which is a meat packing plant, and they own plants across several states, all of them with children as young as 13 working around these animal carcasses in unsafe conditions with tools they don't know how to use. They don't understand, what happens if you lose an arm at age 13 because they can't process that kind of future, injury yet. Mm-hmm. And it's terrifying that this is happening in the United States, but it is. And I guarantee you this Packer Sanitation is not the only place doing it.
But fair, look, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I can't tell you what an ugly, ugly bunch of people these are. First of all, it ain't your mom and pop business down the road. We're talking about 19 of the biggest multi-global corporations on the planet, okay? So these are the people who run the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So when the media started reporting, oh my God, these poor children, we have to let them in the country, they missed the story. The story is U.S. Chamber of Commerce does not say, go Biden, go. They're all behind Biden on this. They were doing it because now they don't have to go out of this. They don't have to leave the country and pay bribes. They don't have to engage in corruption to be able to manage workers, like child workers. Now they just bring them in the United States, put them in a meat packing place, put them in the coal mines. Story we did, they were in coal mines. They were in every kind of mining business. They're every kind of meat packing business. This is the way that U.S. Chamber of Commerce they're delighted by, right?
Yeah, it is. And you and I actually did a story during the Bush administration. Yeah. We haven't been doing this since HW, but we've been doing it a long time. So all the way back in the Bush administration, I remember you and I talking about Tyson Foods. And Tyson Foods, through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, was directly influencing the W. Bush administration to do nothing about immigration, to continue letting everybody across, talk about it publicly. Oh, we've got a crisis, just like we hear every day now. But these businesses, these industries, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they control both parties. So that's why we hear politicians talk a big game about we're going to stop all this immigration. They never will, because their donors need this source of labor.
Republicans won't stop it, and it's like Democrats don't have enough sense to know that they're getting hustled, that this is not about being humane. This is about feeding the U.S. Chamber of Commerce labor market. That's all this is about. A new study of human intelligence has found that the IQs of American citizens have been dropping for nearly 2 decades as we continue to lose our skills in logic, in math, in vocabulary, in critical thinking. We are turning into a nation of dummies, according to this study, right?
Yeah, we are. And what's really interesting to me is, not just the drop in IQ, but the way they explained it. And they said, look back in the day before we had washing machines and dishwashers, those were manual labor type things. You had to do them every day. It was physical. You did it. And then as technology came in, you didn't have to do it. So we lost a little bit of that physical activity. And they're saying it's no different with the brain. So what we have seen in the years that we're seeing the drop, 2006 to basically today, so almost
It's significant. It's 2 to 3 points is what's dropping.
In such a short amount of time. And they're saying it's because we don't have to think anymore. Mm-hmm. We have this little phone in our pocket that contains all of human knowledge, and so we don't have to...
Alexa, do this.
Yeah.
Siri, do this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we don't have to use our brains. We don't have to put ideas together because we can just wait for somebody else to do it. And then we say, okay, well, that sounds right. I'll go with that. And that also confirms our, confirmation biases. It makes people more tribal one way or the other, depending on what you're consuming. And it is making us dumber, to put it as bluntly as possible.
There was something called the Flynn effect. You might want to check it out, Google it. Flynn effect is where our IQs were raising. I mean, you're just going sky high. And so now the question is, have we reached a ceiling that is irreversible? I mean, is it now going to start going down the other way? I think you're Mensa. If I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I think you are Mensa, and I don't see any signs that your IQ is dropping. But this is problematic to me. I see these videos where they go on a college campus. Have you ever seen these videos? They're man on the street, Mr. Joe. Could you tell us who won the Civil War? Oh, the British won the Civil War. Could you tell us how many planets there are? Well, I think there's 4 planets. And you go, my God, what is happening? Can you name a Supreme Court judge? Oh, yeah, Herbert Hoover. Does it scare you just a little bit?
It really does. And I will say, the one thing actually that I feel great about is, yesterday my son came up to me, he's like, I've been seeing all these videos on TikTok for this thing called the Willow Project, like up in Alaska. Explain that to me. So I was like, oh my God. And he's 13 years old, so I was shocked.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, if we can utilize the technology properly,
right,
we can use it as a tool instead of a replacement for actual knowledge. And that's the problem, is far too many people want to use it as a replacement. I don't need to think anymore. I can just say, Alexa, what does this word mean? Instead of me looking it up, reading it, it is a difference in learning that way.
Okay, you and I have done a couple of stories on not just kids, not just, how's the IQ of kids in school? How is the IQ of the American public? And they read and comprehend, the American public reads and comprehends on a 6th to 7th grade level, okay? Now, you're going to get all these Europeans coming, oh, well, we're so damn, no, you're not that much smarter. Don't get on our site and say, well, I'm in Europe and we're much smarter. No, that's not what these studies show.
Yeah, the studies show that even over in Europe, you guys are losing a couple points.
Just be clear, it's not just America, okay? Farron, thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all of these segments, well, they're going to be available throughout next week, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you the stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers don't let them, or their political connections are either so Republican or so Democrat that they don't allow for it. We'll see you next time.